Greetings, everyone. This is Karen with Naturally with Karen. It's a beautiful Sunday. We had a lot of bright sun, even in Northeast Minnesota. And I'm bringing a live stream, which you can join in and ask me some of your questions if you'd like. You can also always post your questions down below, and be sure to subscribe as well as share the videos if you find them interesting or helpful for others. I'm going to talk a little bit about how I help you to find the root. Now, all of us today are experiencing symptoms, and in a way that long ago we really never did. So even when I have moms and dads, bring children or do sessions about their children through video, like FaceTime and Facebook video, through the telephone, I often hear people tell me things like, they just don't have much attention, or I'm going to turn my phone ringer down. I forgot to do that. There we go. Okay. Or, they have a lot of rashes, or the doctor wants to use ear tubes, or we're considering getting adenoids taken out, tonsils taken out. We're considering medication. We're starting to become faced with a diagnosis potentially as a young child even of ODD, oppositional defiant disorder. Now, as the child matures and grows and learns, what's happening is our people are being entirely raised largely on food chemicals, or what I like to call food drugs. Now, if you take and you remove those from your diet and you go through a process of the gathering with me, stabilization, detoxification, and healing, and we do it through the computer, I'm here to hold your hand, to give you good insights, to help you to continue with what would work well for you in terms of a diet, to help you gear up for good daily habits, self-love, and success. But also, because we're going to be taking a look at, bless up, Kim, good to see you, taking a look at your hair tissue testing. I call it the hair test, just to be short. But it stands, HTMA stands for hair tissue mineral analysis. And in order to find the root, I'm going to give you a couple of examples from people that actually had their hair test results come back. It's an 8-page report. It's called a patient report. And on that patient report, I'm able to see all of your trace elements, which means there's a category up top for nutritional elements: calcium, potassium, phosphorus, silica, magnesium, copper, zinc, all of the things that are the spark plugs in your body that keep you running physically, mentally, spiritually, all the way around. So now you want to keep those spark plugs healthy and gapped in your body so that as you age, I'm getting close to 60. I have clients that are in their 70s. Those are going to work well. You're also going to know your toxic elements like lead, arsenic, cadmium, antimony, which comes from hair dye, as well as mercury, which is huge. It really causes a big problem with people. So now, how are we going to get all these, factors on a scale so that we can see what your exact, unique, personal insight is? What's going on really inside of you when it comes to the blood-brain barrier blood, right? The blood that's up in your brain, which is very, very different to collect that data on a hair test report. Hair is tissue, and it has data for up to 3 months or more stored in this form of tissue, whereas a blood test in the crook of your arm, generally a blood serum test, is going to be for that day only, right? So what has accrued in your blood is very different than what's in your hair tissue next to the BBB, the blood-brain barrier. Now, a couple of reports that I got back 4 reports in the last 3 days. One of them was for a woman that lives on the West Coast. She's under 40. And it turned out, bless up, good to see you. It turns out that when I got her report back, and she'd been running to the doctor and paying out of her own pocket, she was lactating for years and years, and the doctors just, quote, couldn't figure it out. They couldn't figure out what her hormonal issues, why was that happening? And my webcam keeps zooming in, so hopefully it doesn't look as funny to you as it does to me. When I got her hair test back, in about 2 weeks from the time she mailed me the hair sample and the kit that I send her, she's got the teaspoon of hair. She's got it all together and mailed back to me, and I mail it to the lab. We're only allowed to deal with the lab, not our clients. And when I saw her report, and I saw that her zinc was way up here on the scale and her copper was way down here, I started to realize I know exactly what's going on. I looked over and I saw in the toxic element category several other things that were glaring to me. And I said to her, I want to ask you some questions as we're meeting like this through the video screen, right, on Facebook video, because she joined onto my page on Facebook called Naturally with Karen. And she said, I wouldn't be doing this and paying you, except that I've heard such amazing things. And I hear that you're from the West Coast for 42 years. And I said, absolutely. And I said, I work for you. I don't work for a big conglomerate. And if I don't get results for people, I don't stay working. So anyway, her zinc was really super high. I said, I'm going to give you 3 things that you're going to go shop for. I'm going to tell you what they are. And I gave her 3 steps to do. And that's what we're going to do for right now. I answered all of the questions that she had. She'd undergone an MRI because now the doctors wanted to see what was going on potentially with her brain. I don't know about you, but if a doctor is going to ask you or me for, a brain scan, we start to get a little worried. But I wasn't worried, and I wasn't worried because I wanted to assure her of something. I said, you see, underneath it all, as I look on your patient report, this 8-page report that you got for a test that cost you $125 and $7.50 shipping, that was painless. There was no needle in your arm. All you had to do was cut a little bit of hair on your scalp, your chest, your pubic hair, or do nail clippings. I said I was able to identify other health trends that are coming up for you so that I'm able to give you really good insights. And I was able to tell so much more from the report because now, after years of learning how to read them and working directly with Dr. Watts through the phone and through email, reading several books by Dr. Andrew Cutler and Dr. Watts, and learning exactly what I needed to look for, not only just the ratios, but actually there's an emotional profile that can be read by looking at the whole test. As we worked together, and I told her, I'd really like it if you could try to start getting to sleep by 10 o'clock at night on the nights that you can, okay? I like it if you do this and you do that. I recommended some ionic copper drops for her to start at a half dose in her water so we could start to balance the ratio between copper and zinc. Now, copper and zinc have everything to do with your female hormones, but you're not going to hear anybody else talking about this because I've been digging and digging and digging to help myself, to help my clients, to help my son, to help my family members. And it's what caused me to end up writing a book called Detox and Heal Your Thyroid, because I came to figure out that in fact, most people had a slowed thyroid or a slowed thyroid that had just been ignored for so long, even though they were tested and tested and tested by blood, they were never picked up. They were never helped, or they were just given a synthetic drug to go take, which, made their blood tests look a little better. All right. Okay. So, summer is coming in next month, right? And if you're in Northeast Minnesota like I am, you're just like, oh, the sun, the long-awaited sun, the warmth. We've waited so long. We have really extra long winters up here way up north. Nothing like my 42-year home in Santa Cruz, California, where it's just kind of warm all year long. And so it takes getting used to. I moved here because the cost of living is far less, and because I needed to start a new life. And some of the big cities were getting really crowded and getting a lot more filled with crime. So Anyway, a lot of people were familiar with what I do in Santa Cruz in the Bay Area, but not here where I am. I mean, I could go and talk till I was blue in the face at the local health food store, the natural food store. I was teaching classes at Whole Foods in Duluth, Thyroid Madness, and so on and so forth. But how would I help you to find the real, honest to God root cause? Is that I'm going to get it through talking with you, which I call number one, the gathering phase. So you start with a wellness form that's on my website at Naturally with Karen, totally free. You fill it all out with whatever detail you want. In fact, I like the more detail, the better. I have a good attention span and a good fast working brain, and I'm able to read a good amount of information. I care. I want more information from you. It helps me and it helps you, right? Another person who's saying, Karen or shaman really helped me with what I needed is great for you and it's good for me too, right? Okay, so that's how I eat and pay for my living. So gathering your wellness form that's on the website at Naturally with Karen is free. You go to naturallywithkaren.com, you click where it says consults, and right under that, you can fill out a wellness form for a human or a canine, because I love dogs and I help dogs too. Been living with dogs for 50 something years. So after you fill that out, you click the submit button at the bottom and it goes right to my email. I'm able to look it over and say, great, I've got it. Even if I've got my phone with me and I'm out at the dog park, which I do. My phone looks pretty dirty. And I'm able to say, I got your wellness form. Everything looks great. Let me know when you're ready to get started. Do you want something right away? Or, after that, depending on what you put on the wellness form, if you're already diagnosed with a disease, if you've got a lot of symptoms, it just makes good sense to go to the lab testing and the hair testing and click on and buy or order the profile number 2. You're going to get a kit mailed out the very next day that postage, is in operation. So not tomorrow because it's Memorial Day and the post office is closed. But on the very next day, I'm there the very next morning and I'm mailing out all my test kits. You get your test kit. It's got a picture. It's got written instructions. It's got a cover letter. It's got a hair scale that's made out of cardboard that you fold the edges with an arrow on the top so that as you're, cutting a little hair up here and a little hair over here and a little hair in the back, you're able to put it on there. And when it tips over, you've got enough of your tissue specimen. You dump it in the little envelope and you seal the envelope and you write your name on it. You put it in the self-addressed envelope that I give you. You mail it back to me and I get it to the lab right away. Then in about 2 weeks, you're going to receive your patient report via email and you're going to get a hard copy through the mail. I mail those out right away. Some people want to take them to another holistic practitioner, totally up to you, or their naturopath or their doctor or their surgeon or whatever it is, okay? Other times, people want to be able to do coaching with me. So phase number 1 is to gather. I want you to fill out the wellness form that's free, and it goes to my email. I'm going to review it. Aha, this is someone I can help. Who can I not help, okay? There isn't really anyone I can not help because we're living during a time where we are over medicating. We have we have nutritional deficiencies due to the soil, the water, the air, stress, living, my neighbors are blowing off fireworks, living under a great deal of financial stress. This is not, one or two of us. This is everyone, okay? There is a very small amount of people that don't say, oh, I've only got this much money left. Could I possibly afford to do some things for myself, right? So it requires you to get creative sometimes, to maybe make trades with people like me or other people, right? To go pick up some side work, to ask your parents for help, whatever it is, because once you show them your hair test, like the beautiful woman who's under 40 who lives in the West Coast, who found out that her zinc was sky high. I said, babe, you must be feeling like you're going into Parkinson's disease, because for all of the 5 people that I've worked with that had Parkinson's fully diagnosed, okay, I worked with many people that it wasn't diagnosed, but I saw it coming. But she said, yes. And in fact, one of the doctors said I had symptoms that were like Parkinson's. She had psoriasis all over her scalp. She had cystic acne. She had moles. And when I explained to her that on the toxic elements, the mercury had everything to do with the moles, that the zinc had everything to do with her feeling like her joints hurt. And then I asked her, your son has got to have anger problems, because I went through it as a therapeutic foster mom and a mom myself. Instead of throwing drugs at our children, we need to really take a look at why is this happening in the first place. But the modern allopathic medical industry, it doesn't entertain minerals, trace elements, shamans, original medicine people, because it's much quicker, seemingly, much more profitable, certainly, right? Because people want a quick answer, even if it means reading a blood test or reading a scan or going into a big magnet machine once you've consumed contrast solution, which we know can store in the tissues of the brain and the body, for that matter. It's like using Roundup and glyphosate on our food to get rid of the pests, right? If all we're going to do is fight the cancer, battle the cancer, kill that cancer out of us, we're killing ourselves. We're not ever really finding the root cause. And I speak with a lot of people because I reach out for 35 years and I've said, what are you doing for folks that have breast cancer? What are you doing for folks that have depression? Well, certainly we can talk about inflammation, we can talk about detoxification, we can talk about diet, but we're not talking about trace elements. We're not talking about the spark plugs to your body. You can't start your car or your truck or your RV if your spark plugs aren't working right. If they're not in the right position, if they're not gapped, if they're old, they're not going to work, right? Does this test kit process also for people abroad? Oh, good question. Thank you for asking that. I am only allowed to do, per the company of 35 years, I'm only allowed to do the hair testing in the United States, the continental United States, and I'm not allowed to do it in the state of New York, just like we can't do on-demand blood testing in New York. We can't do other types of mail business with the state of New York. However, if you let me know where you are, I can get a hold of the company and I'll make a call on Monday or Tuesday, because Monday is a holiday here in the United States. And I'm going to make a note right now. Okay. And I'll find out where you can get that, or you can go to your search engine, outside of the country and type in trace element hair tissue testing and find out who can, help you out. But I do know we've got people in other countries that are doing this and that they have to work with you. I can't do that. What I can do, however, is give you a lot of insights. So people are being funneled. I like that word because a lot of businesses are talking about business funnels. Let's really promote scarcity and lack. That's not what I'm about. I'm not a hobby. I don't have a husband with a check or wealthy relatives that say, why don't you just go dabble and play in this kind? This is my business. This is not just my business. This is my life. Okay. For all of my life, I have helped people to build trust with dogs, not train them. All of my life. I live with 3 dogs right now, an extremely extra large 31-inch neck, 165-pound Rottweiler who's as nice as it gets, but he's extremely protective of Mama. I live with a German Shepherd mix. You can see their pictures at naturallywithkaren.com on About Me and click on the pack. And I have a grand dog, like a grandson, right? But he's a grand dog. And he's a 5-pound apple-headed, is what they call them, teacup Chihuahua. All 3 of the dogs eat a combination of meat and plant-based diet. I wish I would have started them all off on a plant-based diet. I did start them off on a lot of fruits and so forth, but they don't really like them anymore unless I really blend them into something, and they really turn their noses up a lot. So I do the best I can to not support, the horrors of the factory farming industry. Okay. So I'm going to find the root cause. I want to continue on this because through phase number 1, there's 4 phases that I use: gathering, stabilization, detoxification, and healing. And they work. I guarantee you they work. If you go to my YouTube channel that you're on, Naturally with Karen, or you go to my website, naturallywithkaren.com, you're going to find a testimonial in video and in writing from Denny or Dennis Wita. He is now in his early 70s. And over the course of 14 months, and for 2 of those winters, he went and snowbirded away, and we didn't talk for a couple of months, and he kind of had his plan of action together. And consistently through the medications he was on, including warfarin, which is a powerful blood thinner, we worked together with a team. He also had doctors at the VA and the Mayo Clinic. He's a veteran, a Vietnam veteran. And he had other issues that were sub-issues or minor issues underneath stage 3 necrotic kidney disease. Necrotic means that the kidneys are starting to die. Now, as I got his hair report later, worked with him and figured out exactly what he was eating, what medications he was taking, and I researched the medications and showed him on the medication language, just like I did when I worked in law, how they were harming him, how they were setting him up for long-term failure to use these medications. It became crystal clear that we needed to find a way that he could feel safe and that the doctors could show him that what he was doing was really working through through more blood testing. You see fire now. So the blood testing started to show it had shown a very low kidney function that was dropping. Now, to my knowledge, I'm one of the first, and maybe even still one of the only people that took on stage 3 kidney disease. And I'm still humble about that. Okay. I work for you. I work for the client. Okay. Whether it's infertility, kidney disease, or any of the other things I've worked with people, it's a step-by-step process. Generally, unless I can only do 1 session, lay it out for me, then I'll do that for you. But otherwise, it really needs to be step by step, because I've got to go over diet and gather and stabilization. When a person has been unstable for a long time, they can have mood issues, they can have body temperature issues, they can have blood pressure issues, they can have slowed reflex, they can have slowed thinking, they can be very unmotivated. They could have had substance abuse. They could have had alcohol abuse as part of substance abuse, right? Medication abuse, polypharmacy. So my goal is not to ever step over the toes of the medical industry and the legal industry. I don't give medical advice. I don't tell people to get off their medications. What I do is I go to work and I do the research and I say, here's what you're taking, here's what it's doing, here's long-term, here's side effects. Here's what I believe you can do. Why don't you go ahead and review that with your doctor? And sometimes they come back from their doctor and they say, my doctor says, forget it. This isn't going to work. And I say, well, your doctor can't say forget it when it comes to us going in through the detox process. And then when your blood tests reflect the work that you've done, then the 2 of you will kind of have to come to a decision, right? You'll kind of have to come to the decision that, hey, there's no refuting that this is actually working. So that's the positive. Stabilization is just like with myself, right? Being around a family member that was addicted to heroin and fentanyl. I went a year, between March of 2018 and 2019, of sleeping an hour to 2 hours a night, of being horribly worried and stressed, being in hospitals, in the early morning hours, quite often for overdosing and going to dosing clinics. And just running myself ragged. And I'm rebuilding me right now, right? Which is why for a while I looked inflamed. I'm still working on that. I gained weight because of stress hormones, right? And you don't always eat properly. So I'm again reminded what the stabilization process really is. It doesn't happen overnight for most of us. It is a gradual process of calming the nerves and calming the body and getting into really strong habits so that it's like, this is our habit and we don't veer from that. And if we do, we pick back up and get right back on track. Okay. That's how we build. What is your opinion on, okay. I don't really have a lot of respect for the ketogenic or the paleo diet. I understand you could do the keto diet as a plant-based diet largely too. You could do that, I suppose, but I'm really not a big proponent of eating animals today because of what's gone on with factory farming. And most people really can't afford to eat clean sourced animals. If you can, and they're, humanely treated, which is kind of, I know it's a little sort of a side, to the whole thing. But I really believe that our digestive system is not only evolved, but originally geared to eat a plant-based diet. You can see it with our teeth. You can see it with our digestive system is very long. It's like 31, 32 feet of intestinal tract. That does not do well with eating, animals. So if you mean ketogenic in that way, 100% on board with the plant-based diet. Step 1 is gathering. Step 2 is stabilization. Step 3 is detox. So when it comes to detox, it's like now your moods, your blood pressure, your body temperature, we've gotten you through some of the stabilization, gotten through some gathering. Some of the gathering is finding out some of the mind-body stuff. I'm watching your body language when we talk, not, to just critique every move you make. But I've got my pen and I've got a little notebook and I'm just kind of noting some things out of love and interest and care for you, so that in our later sessions, or maybe that session, I'm going to bring up something and say, well, I noticed, that you use this word 2 or 3 times. What does that word mean to you? Or I noticed on the wellness form that you filled out that you indicated that you have a lot of heart chakra issues. What does that mean to you? How is that manifesting? Okay. The majority, maybe most, maybe almost everyone has no idea that the radiation that we've all been exposed to, all of us, every one of us, the heavy metals, the toxic elements, have changed us. They are the basis for genetic mutations, chromosomal abnormalities, and autoimmune, including, it's been proven through the trace elements founder that type 1 diabetes is a trace element issue. Okay. So you are not being told the truth. And I am a person that made this my entire life, meaning from the time I was a child, to sense in the field, to learn higher levels of intuitive intelligences such that I am able to remotely scan and sense and be able to medically intuit in a real, genuine way and sense blockages. Add on to that 30 plus years of detoxification with people. So seeing what happens when you detoxify people, the cysts that are ejected, the way that you clean out the brain, the way that the reflexes come back, the way that the gut starts to function. There's no more constipation. There's no more skin rashes. Everything heals up. I mean, it's a no-brainer to me at this point that we don't really have any more time to waste to get our people healed. So when our people are healed, when they're healed, then they're able to come to their senses and say, what have we been doing? Why would we do this to our planet? Why would we do this to nature? Why would we be doing this to the animals? This just doesn't even make sense, right? Why would we be soiling our own environment, our own cage? Why would we? It doesn't make sense, okay? Are we really protecting ourselves, injecting toxic elements into the body under the guise of vaccines? I don't think so, okay? Whether or not you're pro or anti-vax, that's not what I'm saying here. What I'm saying is that I sent an email to Dr. Watts and I said, is it ever going to be okay to inject aluminum and thimerosal, which is mercury? It's a mercury derivative, okay? And formaldehyde. And he said, never a good idea to inject those in the body. That's all I needed to know. See, I didn't ask him a question like, are you pro or against vaccines, Dr. Watts? I said, what? Is it okay to inject those ingredients into the body? And no, it's not. It's not. Okay. So why is it that even Dr. William Davis in his book, The Wheat Belly, which I read years ago, said that the Alzheimer diagnosis arrived on the scene, if you will, at the same time we started to change our primary grain, our amber waves of grain, the wheat, that every single shelter that feeds people in financial poverty, who feeds houseless people, is feeding them pancakes and bread and regular and chocolate milk loaded with sugar and everything else, and go into convenience stores and I see moms and dads loving their children and buying them. I was at the gym just yesterday and grandma was in there in the gym, in the locker room, giving cheese sticks and gummies and crackers, right? And he said, I'm going to get my treat. And I thought to myself, if only she knew that all those vaccines that bombarded that little one, the cheese sticks and the gummies and the crackers, and then waiting around in a pool that was loaded with chlorine and fluoride city tap water and bromide and everything else. What are we doing? This is not wise. This is foolish. It's very foolish. Okay. So if you want to get to the real root cause, we can work together. Okay. I will need some time to get that wellness and read it. It's on my website at Naturally with Karen. To ask you some key questions, probably not more than 5 or 10 minutes of our half an hour, or the standard is 45-minute session. Answer any questions that you have. Talk with you a little bit about maybe why you should get the hair test, or maybe you've watched these videos and you're like, I filled out my wellness. I've already ordered my hair test. I want to get started on the gathering and what you can do for me right now, because time is an issue for a lot of people. If you've just been diagnosed with cancer, it means read the literature or don't read the literature. Trust me when I tell you that you started with fibrocystic breast, FBD, fibrocystic breast disease, before you ever got breast cancer, before you ever went into a benign or malignant tumor. You started developing a powerful coating over the cyst and the cells in your breast. Your breasts are mostly fat. Your brain is mostly fat, mostly water. It's like a jello, in texture. And so what a powerful, powerful organ your brain, your ovaries, and everything are, but they are inside of you because they need to be within your living waters. Your living waters have to circulate, not auto-intoxicate. So the first disease is constipation. It doesn't mean you're sitting on the toilet, you're kind of grunting and you're kind of figuring out how you're going to go because, your bowel movements are dry and icky and they won't come out. And now you've got all this pain. You've got constipation that first started to show up in many, many other ways, right? You didn't sleep good at night. You didn't feel good after you ate. You started to feel really sleepy after you ate, right? You felt tired all the time, even when you woke up. I mean, all these things are interconnected, right? And all of these things are easy to reverse, just like I'm rebuilding me right now. So you can get the gray hair to go away and get the beautiful, shiny original hair to come back. As long as you're not completely gray, I mean, chances are you can get that to come back. You can knock down some of the copper if you're too high copper, right? The uric acid, the lactic acid, all these different expressions that your body is trying to deal with through the toxic lifestyle that we have today. And I will show you how to eat on a really small budget or an enormous budget, and you can just have whatever it is that you want. I'll show you the top notch that you can go out and buy on your own. So that pursuant to your hair tissue testing, you're not going to guess. You can guess if you want to, or you can go get blood testing to check just your potassium or just your calcium. But if you're running to the health food store or buying online supplements for calcium, iron, you're getting duped. Okay? So, any effective fighting techniques or tips you'd like to share? Well, that's what I was just saying. I don't advocate, like, if you go to Quora.com where I write and answer, I've answered almost 3,000 answers, or maybe it's 3,000 right now. I don't use battle axe language. So I don't fight it, battle it, kill it, or conquer it. Instead, I show people how to make peace. And my dogs are going to howl, so I'm going to get going. I love you all dearly.